Hello everyone, welcome back to SwitchUp and to a midweek sales video where games have to be 50% off or more, usually a lot more, and hopefully, well, I don't know, hopefully we can avoid adding too much to our backlog.
Yeah, most of these have got quite a way to go on them, at least a week if not a bit longer, so you have got time to decide whether they make the cut or not, but there's some good games here for sure.
So what are the best games on sale? Oh, and make sure you save yourself some money on any of them. You can save 5% by buying your eShop credit over at switchup.gg. What are the best games? Let's find out. Kicking off then, we've got Alba, the Wildlife Adventure. Is it the or is it a?
I think it's A.
I think it's a Wildlife Adventure. You basically start out as a young girl called Alba who cares deeply about nature. She goes around, I think you start off on this little island, she rescues a dolphin. It feels, I don't even know how to describe these games because I don't even know what genre you would class it as. You kind of do photography missions for people.
Yep.
You know, and you go around collecting different things, taking photos to gradually improve your book of creatures. But there is this little storyline as well with this big company coming to basically ruin the swamplands in your town. So you're fighting back against that by proving that there's really rare wildlife in the place.
Okay.
And it was just a lovely little 5 or 6 hour game, you know, it doesn't take long at all. Sometimes that's the perfect length. For an experience, you know, to sit down on a Sunday and just chill with.
Yeah, I would say so. And quite an interesting way of dealing with that photography angle. I like that.
That one's 70% off, and that goes on until the 5th of July.
Then we have Shovel Knight Treasure Trove, which is 50% off and ends on the 27th of June. So just a couple of days for that one by the time this goes out. Now this has the original Shovel Knight game, and it's expansions or extra chapters, I don't know what you class them as, where you played as the other knights that were introduced as enemies, obviously in that first game. The original Shovel Knight, when it came out, I think it can be understated now just how important it was for bringing back 2D pixel art platformers.
Yeah.
You know, because there's so many of them now, but this did it so well and it showed just how relevant they could still be. I would say that this is one of my favourite platformers, the original Shovel Knight of all time. I enjoyed the others, but I didn't enjoy their mechanics, you know, the way that they moved or their attack patterns as much as the original Shovel Knight. But to get all of them together for 50% off, it's an absolute bargain. I think we've got a review of one of the games in here because obviously they'll release separately. So we'll link that, but obviously you're getting a lot more than just that one standalone game. But you're looking at about £17 odd, $20. Yeah, bargain, great games.
Yeah, that sale's 50% off and goes on until June the 27th. Next up, we've got the original Yooka-Laylee game on Switch. Bit of a classic this, isn't it?
Yeah, so I guess similar to what I just said about Shovel Knight, this was one of those first games that tried to really bring back 3D platforming and bring it back in a style that people had been craving for based on older games such as Banjo-Kazooie. This was from Playtonic, and it's one that I think over the years people have started to appreciate more. I think maybe at the time, I seem to remember it got a bit of a lukewarm reception, maybe because people had built it up in their heads, bearing in mind what they were expecting or wanting, I suppose is a better term. But it's a very solid 3D platformer, and if you're ever going to buy it, considering I believe the physical release is a limited games exclusive, if you're outside of the US, even these days, that's probably a hard one to find. So 80% off, yeah, 20th up until the 20th of July, so you've got time. Great game, worth buying.
We're going to cheat a little bit on this next one. We're putting a physical game in there, which I often do, to be honest, on the weekends, because it's stupidly cheap. And here in the UK at the moment, we've got Bayonetta 3 over at Amazon. I think it's 62% off.
Yeah, this is a really good game. I mean, again, some people didn't like this one as much as the previous ones in the series. I reviewed it. I thought it was fantastic, to be honest. Great combat. Yeah, bonkers story. I think I lost track of the story after about 6 minutes. But yeah, it's there if you enjoy it. 62% off. I think this brought it down to about £18, which is the cheapest I've seen it. It seems to hover around the £20 mark for the most part. Physically, we're talking about, of course. So yeah, if you're looking to buy this, this is physically the best price I've ever seen it.
If you're in the US and you know a place that is cheap, let someone know in the comments, because obviously we don't really have a great amount of access to your stores over here.
We then have For the King, which is like almost like a roguelite board game, digital board game with a lovely low poly style, really beautiful use of colour as well. I played this one a while ago. I mean, it did get a physical release. I think it was from Signature Edition game, someone like that, I seem to remember. But again, it's very difficult, you know, it's got that roguelike nature, but once you get into it, it's one of those games that you find very rewarding. You know, you do need to put a bit into this, I feel, to get the most out of it. But if you're willing to invest that time, again, for 80% off, what a time to get it.
Absolutely. Following on from that, then we've got Shakedown Hawaii, which I have sat on the shelf behind that pile of rubbish there. A great game, kind of like an old school GTA, where you're kind of making it big, aren't you, within the city?
Yes, it's exactly that, yeah. So basically, this is the sequel to Retro City Rampage, which is also on sale at the minute, by the way. Now, that was an 8-bit game, you know, like an interpretation of a GTA game. And I seem to remember when it first started, the intention was to make it using NES hardware.
Right.
So it had to exist on an NES, you know. I don't know if they were able to stick to that or not. Please do let us know in the comment section. But then for their sequel, they went 16-bit. And I just, you know, immediately seeing that beautiful aesthetic with the colours that you'd expect, bearing in mind the Hawaii setting, it just looks lovely. It does. Some of the missions get a bit repetitive if you want to start 100% completing it, which I did do. You're kind of buying businesses, you know, and pouring all your resources into them to make them better, and then obviously you get money back in return. But just in terms of that GTA formula, on a top-down, you know, the original GTA formula, it's, yeah, a lot of fun. And again, how much are we looking at the minute? 75% off, yeah, well worth picking up at this time. Next, I want to mention one, maybe not so much for the game itself, you have to bear with me when I say that. It's called the Silver Case 2425. Now this, I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying, was a game that was out years ago, possibly on the PlayStation 2, something like that. And it comes published these days via NIS America. Now the reason I'm mentioning it is because certainly over here in the UK, certain NIS published games seem to sell out very quickly and become very hard to find, and you're looking at silly prices if you then want to buy them. I remember the original Yomawari release was very similar in that respect. So if you are looking to buy this game and you just can't find it physically anywhere for a decent price, at its current price of 55% off, it might be the time to pick it up. I'm fairly sure this is, if not its lowest, its joint lowest.
Yeah, I didn't realise this was from Suda51.
Yes, exactly right.
So that definitely explains why it's, you know, become quite expensive and rare.
Yes, yeah, that's right. I don't know if that applies for the physical version in the US. It might be, you know, easily obtainable over there, but I believe it is on sale over there too, digitally, if you do want to pick it up. But as Mark rightly says, yes, it comes via Suda51, so you have that to it as well.
Then you've got the Swindle. Basically, as the title suggests, you're robbing places, aren't you?
Yeah, you are, yeah. Yeah, it's like a roguelite where you need to, yeah, basically burgle places, burgle buildings, and you have to sneak your way in, and obviously there are like traps that you need to avoid and what have you. And then once you've got in and you've taken all of the loot and get yourself out, you go back to your base. It's like an airship, I seem to remember, and you can, you know, level up and purchase things that will help you on future missions. Just a very fun little game. I think it was on the Wii U. I'm relatively sure that's where I first played it, and because there were so few games on the Wii U, by the end it was a game that a lot of people mentioned. But obviously on the Switch, it's just buried immediately. But it's worth playing if you think the concept sounds interesting. And again, it's currently 85% off.
Yeah, it's a couple of quid, something, you know, very, very cheap indeed. On the back of that then, we're just going to talk about a few Lego games, just a Lego game sale at the moment in general.
Yeah, because they're just so ridiculously cheap. I mean, you've got games like Lego City Undercover, Lego Ninjago, 90% off at the minute, down to, you know, £3, whatever it is in dollars. They're games that have a few flaws. Lego City Undercover is very good, by the way, I will say. But if you're ever going to buy them, this is the time to get them. And then you have other ones like the Skywalker Saga, some of the more recent releases or the licensed releases that are a bit more expensive. They're between kind of 50 to 75% off,
right? But
still good prices. Just worth having a browse of on the eShop for sure.
Have a browse,
Glen. Have a browse, why not?
Okay, we'll finish off then with a trilogy. So it's a bundle, basically.
Yeah.
And it's called the Diobolical Trilogy, and it comes from Calcat. It basically features 3 different games, those being Riddle Corpses X, Demons Tier Plus, and Xenon Valkyrie Plus. So Xenon Valkyrie is like a roguelike platformer with some RPG elements in there. Riddle Corpses is like a frenetic twin-stick shooter. And then Demons Tier is like a classic roguelike almost with arcade elements. But these are decent games, and a lot of them have 2-player co-op as well, which is nice. And then you factor in the fact that they're like $3 or $4, £3. It's an absolute bargain, well worth it.
Yeah, definitely. I've played Riddled Corpses of those 3. As you said, it's a shooter, a twin-stick shooter. Yeah, good game. And if you're getting 3 games for that silly price, why not? You might as well.
Yeah, that sale goes on until July the 4th. Okay, before we finish up then, there's just one game that I think you should avoid because I purchased it on sale the other day and I was very disappointed. It's called Tiny Little Farm from a company, a publisher called Game Nationale, and they're releasing a lot of junk on the eShop. The thing is, it's quite deceptive. You look at the pictures of it, I'm sure you'll see it on the screen, and it looks from a still image quite appealing, you know, like quite a nice little simplistic farming sim, which is what I thought. Then you get into it and it's not that at all, you know. It's there's no actual creativity. You're not actually designing any of this stuff. It's like an image basically on the screen.
Oh, right.
And then you're just clicking crops to harvest them. They're already pre-planted. They're just there.
Right.
And that's it. It's made to. It's basically a scam. It's designed to look like a game. So yeah, I'd have a little look at Game Nationale and you know what else they've published. There's quite a few. I clicked in there and you're like, oh wow, okay, it's one of those. But the reason I say this is because it's right up there at the moment in the top of the sales charts. So I'm not the only one that's taken a punt on it. You know, when it's £1, you're like, oh, let's have a go. But don't. It's absolute garbage. Made me angry.
Well, there we go. Okay, well that's I think that was 10 games and one avoid to consider if you're wanting to pick something up midweek. Do let us know of any bargains you've found on the eShop. I mean, our rule in this video was 50% or more, but you don't have to stick to it. Just put anything in that you found that people might enjoy.
Yeah, if you want to save yourself some money, like I said at the start, you can save 5% by buying your eShop credit over at switchup.gg, and we get a tiny little kickback. You don't actually have to do anything, no codes, nothing like that. You'll instantly get that money back whenever you make a purchase on our site.
Lovely. A quick thank you to our patrons and our channel members for your continued support, and to each and every one of you for watching our videos. Take care, and until next time, happy gaming.